Welcome back, 3D students. In this video, we're going to create the controls for the head, and we might also create the controls for the root bone, which is called the center of gravity control. So let's get started. Let's go to the front view by hitting F on your keyboard and zoom in on the head. And let's use, this time we're going to use some text. And what I want to use is just click right here, any old place. You might have to zoom out again. And go to the Modify tab. And what I want to use this time is a pair of parentheses. So select the text box and hit 1, and then hit another one. And you have these really interesting pair of parentheses. Let's scale them down. And then let's convert them into editable splines. And then we can move them. Oops, sorry. And I want to give them the same color that the head has here. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to click an empty swatch and click Add Custom Color. And I'll make kind of an orange-yellow color like that. And click Add Color. And then I'm going to pick that color and click OK. And we're going to make sure that the Enable in Viewport is checked. I think I'm going to make these just a little thicker than they were. And now let's open up the Editable Spline rollout here, and we're going to click Spline because we're going to select this one and move it over. And we're going to select this one and move it over. Now let's make our character mesh visible again so we can see that it's going to be outside the head. And then we can go to the top of the stack there and maybe move that down just a little bit. Just make sure it surrounds your character's head. And then let's hide the character mesh again. And we're going to do the same thing with this that we did with all the other ones. Let's start by aligning the pivot point. Let's open up Effect Pivot, the Hierarchy tab, Effect Pivot Only, and then Shift A, align it to the pivot point of the head. And then let's Alt, right-click, and freeze the transforms. And rename it. CC _ head. And then what we need to do is link this head controller here to the head control object. So let's get the link tool and click on the head point control and link it to the head controller. And then let's test it out. Now, one thing I forgot to do is create a layer for our control objects. So let's open up the current layer. Mine is currently the helpers layer, and select all the CC objects. And click the plus sign and name this new layer Controls. And make sure it's the current layer. Now let's create the center of gravity control. Let's unhide the character mesh for another minute because this control needs to surround this area. So let's go to the top viewport and go to the Create tab, and we're going to create a circle. And let's go to the perspective view, and this circle needs to be aligned to the center of gravity control. So let's hide the character mesh again, and Shift A, align it to the root. Actually, Shift A, align it to the hip so it can be right there. Actually, let's Shift A, align it to the root bone. There we go. And let's unhide that character mesh for a minute and make sure that it's not in the way of the mesh. And then let's give this a color. I'm going to click the color swatch here, and I'm going to give it a custom color. I'm going to make this a magenta color. And let's rename this now. Actually, let's go to the Modify tab and rename it CC_COG for center of gravity. And then let's Alt right click and freeze its transforms. And now what we need to do is link the root bone to the center of gravity control. So now when we select the center of gravity control, it should move the whole character like this. So that's it for those two. When we come back in the next video, we're going to create a control for the hips, and then we're going to create the global controller. And I'll see you then.